Jujutsu Kaisen Chapter 253 opens up with the one thing that fans of this series always dread, which is the flashback, which means whatever favorite character you have that's still around likely gets axed in this chapter or the upcoming chapter, and Kusakabe fans, you've now been put on notice due to the process of elimination, due to everyone that's shown on the page during the flashback. Mei is nowhere to be seen on the battlefield, and Kusakabe says at the end of the chapter, hey, I don't expect her to show up. Nanami, he's a Mahito victim. Gojo got cut in half a long time ago, which means that as Kusakabe, we need to worry about, especially given the context of the conversation, which is all them discussing who is the strongest first grade Jujutsu sorcerer. And Kusakabe pretty much shuts that down by saying, hey, it's anyone except for me. I don't want that title, which nobody would really dispute that given Kusakabe isn't the type of person to want to jump headfirst into the battle, to willingly risk or seek out that type of attention under normal circumstances. However, what's really interesting about this flashback is the fact that this was earlier on in the manga, somewhere during the events of season 1 of the anime, just based off of the appearances that all these characters have. And we see Gojo going through his reasoning for who the strongest first grade Jujutsu sorcerer is, running through the big 3 Jujutsu families, the Gojo clan, which obviously doesn't apply because the Gojo clan is pretty much Gojo, and then you got the Kamo clan and the Zenin clan. The fact that Gojo's bringing all this up and Kusakabe is so reluctant to even want any of that praise means that Gege might be cooking up a swerve here like he did with Takaba, where you go in thinking, yeah, this guy, he's gonna get dusted. And then we all saw how Takaba versus Kenjaku ended up after you got past the wacky elements of it. But there's something here with Kusakabe. However, because this is a flashback, the death flags have been planted for his character. It's then that we shift over to the continued battle of Maki versus Sukuna. And man, Maki, she is going really hard at Sukuna at the beginning of the chapter right now. She's dodging slashes at point blank range from Sukuna, all while that building that got cut earlier is beginning to fall to the ground on top of them. But when you got two bosses like Sukuna and Maki, who really thinks that a falling building is going to prevent them from mixing it up? Maki stays in attack mode in an unrelenting assault using her blade, and once the cars that were parked on top of the building that were falling, likely as a part of some type of a parking garage or something, Sukuna, being the smart fighter that he is, take advantage of it and places Maki in a position where she has to start avoiding the cars that are falling, but Sukuna's already thinking a few steps ahead of her. He isn't just using the cars against her, he is also simultaneously using slashes through the cars to disguise the attack on some real move hidden behind the move tactics that makes the Naruto fan in me super proud right now to see this deception and trickery in Sukuna's attacks. This leads to Maki being thrown from the impact of the attacks that Sukuna created, and she starts flying backwards. Sukuna smells blood here, and if you're Maki, you got to be thinking to yourself how far you've come in this short period of time. You lost your sister, you mastered the Zenin clan after that in some of the most brutal scenes we've seen in Shonen Jump in the last decade. You slapbox with 15-finger Sukuna right after he took Fushigoro's body, and now you're fighting 19-finger Sukuna, and you're beginning to start losing your edge here. It's been one hell of a run for someone like Maki, but with Maki, you can tell that unwavering fighting spirit, it isn't ready to give in yet. However, she might not have a choice here. This leads to Sukuna following up with another kick, and this time she's using cleave, but just as he starts to begin cooking, Ino enters into the kitchen and demands that Sukuna steps away from that figurative stove. However, Chef Sukuna does no such thing. He sees Ino and he does the one thing you never want to see Sukuna do if you're in the same room as him. Sukuna starts smiling at Ino before he cancels out his attack and lands a devastating kick on him. From the way that Sukuna's drawn, you can tell that this dude is on complete demon time, taking immense joy at the pain that he's causing to Ino, and just as Ino begins to recover, that's when Sukuna realizes that something is wrong when it comes to Ino. He doesn't have Nanami's weapon, and it makes Sukuna raise an eyebrow because he knows that someone should have it. However, before he seemingly can wonder where it is or wonder who has the weapon, Kusakabe attacks using Nanami's 7-to-3 ratio technique, and that's when Kusakabe immediately wets himself because he realizes they went through all this trickery and effort and strategy, and Sukuna had already figured it out, which, looking back at this, none of us should be surprised here. Each step of the way after Gojo died, Sukuna was shown being observant and looking closely at what the Jujutsu High team were doing and adjusting accordingly, all while never truly using his true power at any point in the fights with them. You'd think that given how many years it's been that Sukuna lived, that this wasn't the first time a bunch of Jujutsu sorcerers, powerful sorcerers, tried to gang up on him, and this certainly will not be the last time either, which is why he's taken a lot of joy out of this. Sukuna is like one of those guys you see playing pickup ball at the basketball court or playing horse or something on the basketball court, and he's missing shots on purpose to set people up to take their money because he starts playing seriously and hits every shot he takes after enough money has been put into the betting pool. That's basically what Sukuna is doing here. He slams Kusakabe with an attack and he sends him flying, but before the body can even hit the ground, Maki shows up once again ready for all the smoke, and she's determined to survive this battle, saying even if Yuta survives, this battle with Sukuna drags on. If it drags on, they're gonna run into more problems, which is why she needs to end this battle as quickly as possible, which duh, you're fighting against Sukuna, you don't want this to drag out. And this is where Gege treats us like all the gluttons of punishment that we are. As Maki is making this internal monologue, Sukuna is once again smiling like he knows he's about to mess Maki up, and even the narrator takes the time in to step in, and when the narrator speaks, he says something that Gojo fans everywhere who are clinging to his return, they're gonna start sobbing in the collective pillows at the cope that they had. The narrator says Gojo is dead. This is a confirmed death. No more jumping through hoops to explain how Gojo might return. Gojo fans, we just gotta be happy at the fact that the guy probably gave us the best fight in this series that showcased every single aspect of the power system Jujutsu Kaisen has in an absolute clinic. The narrator tells us that following the death of Gojo and Kashimo and Higuruma and Yuta, they're all standout gems when it comes to Jujutsu talent, but the real one he wanted to fight this whole time was Maki because of her heavenly restriction. And man, Yuta fans, I think we might need to start planning a funeral right now because it ain't looking too pretty for our boy, because there was some past tense used here when referring to this. However, for now, we have Maki moving forward in battle, and she's slicing through pillars with ease, and she's kicking them at Sukuna, basically doing what Sukuna did, trying to use objects and areas as a distraction. And what she didn't anticipate is that Sukuna just took things up by several notches by beating up and grabbing her with the face, and with the sheer force that he grabs her, he takes them both off the side of the building, which goes back to what we were told at the end of the last chapter. Sukuna has yet to show his full power. We were told in the last chapter, and now we're seeing it, because that speed amp that this dude just got is absolutely crazy. He freaking vanished from sight in the blink of an eye. Sukuna, as he's dogging out Maki, doesn't miss the chance to give her a backhanded compliment on her power by praising her, while also throwing a stray bullet at Yuji, which somewhere Yuji's gotta be saying, what did I do to deserve this? Which, if Kenjaku didn't do something special to Yuji's body, this dude is in for a world of hurt. Sukuna takes it up a step further, smiling with excitement as things continue, saying that Jujutsu is merely the skin for people, but the body of Maki is the true bone in essence, and Sukuna takes that excitement out at the prospect of battling Maki, and this is where you start seeing the difference in their power. Sukuna ramps it up. Whereas Maki last chapter was seemingly gaining some ground on Sukuna, Sukuna is just asserting his dominance on her as this thing is going on, and he's running Maki through the grinder here as he steps up the pressure. Part of her face just gets ripped off, and this guy is getting off on it like it's a kink fetish, and Sukuna declares that this fight will determine if the physical body, i.e. Maki, is stronger, or if the Jujutsu, i.e. the skin of someone like him, is stronger. And as Maki realizes that Sukuna is no longer using reverse curse technique to heal himself, Sukuna officially enters into the zone that make Maki fans let out a collective sob. Sukuna hits Maki with a black flash that is so brutal, it feels like it should be illegal to read it right now during International Women's Month, because Sukuna does her dirty, hitting her so hard her body looks like it's in the process of almost snapping, and he sends Maki flying off into the distance. And this is where Kusakabe officially wets himself. He realizes that he's the last one standing, and Sukuna is in his zone after hitting Black Flash, and he's the one standing at this point alone. Sukuna fans, our boy is out here looking like Tribal Chief Roman Reigns, giving off unstoppable final boss, can't be defeated vibes right now, and Kusakabe looks like the next victim being served up on the plate, and this shows you how bad things are looking for him. Even Gege's editor has to break the fourth wall here in absolute disbelief at where this is headed. I'm gonna say this much: Sukuna is going off in this chapter, and the fact that we see him hitting Black Flash for what I believe is the first time in the series is a sign either Sukuna is truly about to run the gauntlet and win, or he's being set up for a monumental downfall in the future. I don't think there's any ways around it being one or the other. Sukuna is getting really cocky here. Like, he could have killed Maki when he grabbed her by the face, which leads me to believe he's setting himself up for failure by underestimating Itadori and Kusakabe. But this is where I turn it over to you guys and I ask, is Sukuna being built up to appear too strong?